Hi everybody, thank you so much for tuning in today for my next video I guess it'll be the fifth one in a series of 8 about what to do with the heart chakra, how to understand the heart chakra, what's the function of the heart chakra, how does it really govern my life. So I suppose it's important to first talk about this is the heart center, so located in the center of the chest, and on a physical level we're talking about everything in this area. So really our ability to take in life, our ability to breathe. So our lungs are affected. So if I'm having a congestion in this area, it's just not functioning properly, you can get that sensation of not being able to breathe in conjunction with the solar plexus, as I mentioned, and the diaphragm. So there's a yogic principle that there's different pranas or energies that a human functions upon, and prana, the ability to take in, is centered here. So if we feel like life is just too much, we don't want to take in anymore, this can kind of show up here. Our thymus is also connected with the heart here. So this is just this little butterfly organ sitting above the heart. And this can be connected with our ability to fight infection, immunity, this sort of thing. So now, in terms of emotional work, which obviously is centered in the heart, a little secret here, whenever I start to do energy work with somebody, I always start with the heart. I do a few things in the beginning to diagnose, but really, like, when I go into somebody and I really enter into their energy, I want to ask permission. I want to say, hey, I recognize you and I know I'm stepping into your energy, and how can we make this an experience where you feel open and calm and serene? And a lot of the time, just moving some of that congestion out of the way and really offering loving kindness to the heart opens a person's energy field, relaxes the person, makes them able to receive. So this is really important, you know, when we want to have an exchange with somebody and we want to be heard, you know, it's really important to pick a time when that person's heart is open, you know, not when they're angry or frustrated or shut off to us. It's like, so that's why I always have a hard time with people who will yell at one another to get what they want. It's like, it's the moment that we get into that fight and that, you know, it's like the heart just shuts down and then there's no receptivity. So it's like, how can we speak our truth from a place where the other person is open and receptive to us? And it's about being kind, you know, killing them with kindness in a good way, you know. So also in the heart too, when that heart opens, what else goes down is fear. A person who struggles with a lot of fear all the time generally has very weak heart energy. It's just not strong. It's not kicking the fear to the curb. And in medicine work, my teacher always used to say, when somebody's really having a hard time with fear, you go after their heart, you go to the heart and you find out what's wrong, why there's a problem there, why it's not functioning in the way that it should be. What are the traumas that are there? What are the old experience or memories that are there that need to be cleaned and transmuted? Yeah. So in the heart, our ability to be compassionate. You know, sometimes we can be overly compassionate and letting everyone just get away with everything. That's probably excess energy there. And then the people who just don't have any space for anybody. Like, I can't even listen to you right now. I have way too much of my own stuff going on. This is this kind of energy here. Our ability to forgive people when they've hurt us is also here. Really, really hard to overcome. If someone's, you know, put a knife in our chest, and if that heart energy is not strong to be able to pull it out and have higher compassion for their soul, from where they're coming from their soul, and I'll explain that a little bit more later. But that they're only doing the best that they can from what they know, you know, having that understanding. Being able to grieve and let go eventually, you know. It's always nice to be able to hold on to somebody, but sometimes if we keep reaching into the past and reaching into the past because it seems to feel better than the present moment, this can become an addiction here, yeah? Also our ability to compassionately discern things in front of us. A good example is when somebody is, say, kind of dumping. They're having a bad experience. They're just letting you know. You know, and there's times like maybe when you don't have the capacity and you have to say, hey, you know, or the person keeps doing it over and over again and you need to speak up. But then there's sometimes if you have the heart space for it and you know that them just being able to get it off their chest, like they get home from work and I just need a half hour to vent over dinner, and that's, you can hold that for them because you love them, that's okay. You know, that's a healthy heart energy. And as long as that person recognizes you're not just their psychic garbage can and they say, hey, thank you for listening to me, and then offer you something back. It's always in balance, yeah, ideally. So when this energy is depleted here, what tends to happen? I would say this person is always looking for more, but not really able to access it, you know? There's a sense of loneliness inside, and it is really difficult for them to go out and ask for it. So these are the people that really suffer from social anxiety or are really antisocial, because it's just like there's too much energy here to be able to figure out how to connect to other people. There can be it can be hard for people to trust other people. So these are the people that can tend to be pretty jealous of their partner, always like looking around the corner to see if that person's gonna leave them, always like maybe checking their phone or checking the internet and seeing who they're talking to, this kind of energy, you know. People who are self-critical, always hard on themselves. This is definitely the heart. You can't be compassionate, especially towards yourself. And finally, sadness, a lot of grief that can sit here over time. What I tend to find is when grief sits here in the center, this can be the type of person that tends to smoke a lot because it's connected with the lungs. So that smoking tends to dampen down the grief here. So I tend to notice people who like do have a smoking addiction. Generally, obviously, okay, what's happening with the tobacco, but also too, there's a cause here that's starting that in the first place. Someone who's excessive. So these are the people I notice that just tend to give everything to everyone. I call it like the overly mothering archetype. The people who just want to take care of everyone in the neighborhood and want to everyone come over and just tell me all your problems. I don't know why everyone tells me all their problems. They just do. Well, it's because you invite that first and foremost, you know? So it's like almost you're taking on other people's pain. And there's different reasons people do this, and I'll talk about this in a bit. But what I tend to see energetically for the people who really, really do this, even caregivers, the people that get into caregiving roles and really sacrifice their own needs just because they keep going and they keep going and they keep going, tend to get a lot of energy building up in the chest. This is really the signature that I see for people that suffer from breast cancer. Not everybody, of course, but it's just something that I tend to see overly common in people, and it doesn't necessarily have to be cancer, but a lot of congestion around the breast, the chest, the armpits, this sort of thing. It's just taking on more than you need to for whatever reason. These people can also be overly social, always having to go out, always having to be around other people, and being a little bit needy in it. Like the friend who keeps calling you to hang out all the time. Like, why don't you hang out with me? And then making you feel guilty, you know, every time you just can't jump and give them the attention that they need. Okay, so if this energy for you is depleted, what can you do? First and foremost, again, breath work is incredible to start to breathe in and start to become comfortable with bringing prana in the body. So I used to teach breath work for years, and I think the biggest thing when you start out is not trying to force yourself into something that is too emotionally painful. Some people make the mistake of trying to take these big breaths and hold them and let it go, or just try to take in too much at once and push the emotional self too fast. Too fast. So what I usually do with people in the beginning is just like take 5 minutes and work on simply expanding the lungs, trying to breathe into the lower portion of the lungs slowly, into the middle of the lungs, into the upper chest. A good way to start to do that I used to teach is taking a strap and just putting it around the chest so that when you breathe outwards, you can feel that 360 expansion into the strap and really take notice of where you're constricting and where you're not breathing, where you're not allowing life force to come in. So breathing and doing that is really helpful. Learning how to forgive. So I mentioned earlier about being able to forgive from a soul level. People do stuff to us. We do stuff to people. It happens. You know, we're doing the best that we can from what we know. But sometimes, you know, we can hold that resentment inside like a knot inside of our body. And it just really blocks any kind of progress. I can't forgive him, what they did. How could they do that? Because some things are pretty painful. But at the same time, there's a seduction to hold on to that because it connects us to the person. As painful as it can be, sometimes we grew up, that's what we think love is resentment and anger and holding on. And it's just causing this congestion here, constriction. Sometimes we feel like that person will never forgive us, so what's the point? Or I'll never forgive them, you know? But the amazing thing is everything first happens on the inner world, and then it downloads to the physical world, you know? So if we start to do something in the inner world and really offer a prayer, offer forgiveness, as I've said in videos before, you know, when you send out that good energy, it hits their energy field and actually sends even more back to you. I imagine it like a cloud in between me and this other person. And if I don't contribute something good to it, it's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. Even if the other person is putting their stuff on the other side still, I'm going to be strong and keep cleaning it and cleaning it and cleaning it and cleaning it. So how do I do that? What I do is I simply make a prayer from my soul to their soul, saying that I forgive them for all the ways that they've hurt me, and asking them to forgive me for all the ways that I've hurt them. And hoping that in the future, from our soul development, we understand and make better choices in the future. And I pray for their soul. And some people say, hey, you don't need to pray for me. I'm praying that we all have better interactions with people. We all learn how to come from a more compassionate place with others. And if we send loving kindness to other people, all it does is expand their energy field. There's no way we can harm them. It's just thinking about them in a good way. It's all it really is. It's just not thinking about them in a bad way, sending them bad energy, sending them bad thoughts. It just brings more harmony in general, So this is really important. And sometimes it takes a while for this to work. Sometimes I had one experience where I never thought this person was going to talk to me again. And after doing this for every ceremony, every yoga class, every time I had like a moment where I just had time to go inwards, I would call on this person and just send the prayer. And sure enough, 3 months later, I got a letter from the person apologizing, and yeah, it was really beautiful. And I never thought it would happen, but I just put my faith into that, Sometimes I make it ceremonial, like for grief, Sometimes you really need to have like a physical ceremony to say goodbye that's personal and just for us. Sometimes when people pass away or pets pass away, there's so much happening at the time, and we don't really feel like we get time to really be with our grief and say goodbye in the time and the way that we want to. So, an example, I took a bunch of flowers and I clipped off the ends and I went down to the ocean, and I just took time with every flower, and I made prayer and all the things I wish I would have said to that person, all the things I wish, we could have, anything, you can do whatever you want, but making that offering into the sea, or into the river, or off the mountain, wherever it is, but really just giving yourself that time to say goodbye and pray for that person. And then really making that commitment to not keep pulling on their energy field. Like, oh, they're still around me, oh, they're still around me. And sometimes people are. And this is tricky. I see it in ceremonies. Sometimes people come in and we go into medicine space and I see ancestors, or I see like relatives that have died that are there. Now the problem is, when that relative is still there, we're not allowing them to move on in their evolution. We're holding on to them on some level, or they're holding on to us on some level because they're worried about us. And really, they need to move on and go do their thing and really move into their next life. So the moment that we keep pulling on them and thinking and thinking and thinking, it's like, what can I do to thank you for everything you've given me, but then ask you to give me space so that I can move on and be strong on my own 2 feet and not keep pulling, So a lot of times in ceremony, we have a little ceremony to really disconnect these two people, because sometimes they'll sit in people's organs and actually cause congestion in the organs or cord into the organs. It's quite crazy what happens with ancestral work. So just really like saying goodbye there. Really being careful, I'm still talking about depletion, with your behavior. Don't stalk people energetically. So this is the stuff I'm talking about. Say someone has broken up with you, is with a new partner, and you're on Facebook and you're checking them and checking them and checking them, Instagram, checking them and checking them. Every time you do this, you're sending out an energy cord, pulling on the person, tugging on the person, tugging on the person, thinking about old memories in the past. Oh, we did this and it was great. Tugging, tugging, tugging. And the moment you send out more cords to other people, your overall energy diminishes. We think that we're gaining something from it, but actually we're not. One, we're actually diminishing our own energy, and we're also not allowing the other person that chance to move on in their life. It's almost like a magic of sorts, of keep pulling them in and pulling them in and pulling them in, and not letting them free to do what they want. Because the moment that we start to do that with people, karmically other people are going to do it to us in the future. Do you want that? Do you want people to really try to get involved with your free will? Probably not. So it's like having that conscious awareness, even when the heart energy is low, to still be conscious enough to make those choices. Yeah? Okay, so those are some good things to do. I think, what helps to bring energy in, last thing I'll say actually about the jealousy and the pulling on somebody, is to do that forgiveness prayer, just to wish them well. To wish them that they be happy, and wish from your soul to their soul that you both grow, Really important to let go. And when you do that, again, heart energy expands. Finally, if you have excess energy in the heart, I think it's being aware of any tendencies to take on the martyr role, where you're self-sacrificing for the needs of everybody else, because that's what you should do. And we can get this from any way. Sometimes we grew up in households where the parents, it seemed like they sacrificed everything for you, and they kept telling you that that's what they did and that's what love is. And, this is a pattern that we want to break. We don't want to continue that. Sometimes it's self-esteem. Sometimes we don't feel good enough inside ourselves. And if we keep getting that outside love, then it validates who we are, But again, what does that do? What I was saying energetically before, it starts to actually cause our own body to congest, and the energy doesn't flow freely. So it's like starting to do that work of figuring out what happened to you in the past that really was a hit to your self-esteem. When you notice yourself always saying yes to the point of exhaustion, notice it. Okay, well, what do I do to step back and actually learn and feel confident enough to say no? Okay, well, I've got to get my heart energy in balance, and not over-promising is one way to start to step back and let it shrink a little bit. I think focus on being able to receive as well, instead of giving all the time. Like, what is your relationship with receiving? And I see this with some people, to try to give them money for something, like, oh, no. Or you try to, hey, I'll come over and help you. Oh, no. Are you one of those people that never allows help to come in? What you're really doing is blocking a whole lot of energy coming into the heart, It's just distorting everything. It's like it should be a give and a take. Everything should be in balance, And if we do that, one side of the heart tends to, like if it had a polar side of one of giving and one receiving, one tends to get at a balance, and then everything congests. It's like always being aware, in every relationship, my giving, obviously with children it's different, or your elderly parents or this sort of thing, this is balancing a karma. But in our regular life relationships that we choose, is there a balance of giving and receiving? So anyway, these are just some things to think about in terms of heart energy. If you don't know if your heart is congested or depleted, you can always check my videos on learning how to measure the heart chakras, or the chakras in general. If you want me to check for you, you can always write me. There's some links in the videos below, and we can set up a little session to do that as well. So thank you. If you like what you're seeing, please click subscribe in the video, and it's so nice to have everybody tune in and continue to watch. Thank you for the support, and I'll see you next time for the throat chakra. This is where it always goes crazy in retreats. Take care. Bye.